everyone, and welcome to the Table. And today I'm going to be doing a solo playthrough for Nations the Dice game from Rustan Håkansson. And this is a dice adaptation of Nations the board game. And what this is going to do is capture the essence of that big monster and bring it down into a game that plays in a fraction of the time. And the nice thing is that it comes with solo rules in the rule book, and so I'm going to show you how that is played today. And it's very nice having a civilization building game with a solitaire option. But before we get into the gameplay, let's quickly go over the components. So we've got some game boards here. This first one is going to be for all of the progress tiles that will come out, and they will be placed on the board here, and depending upon the number of players will determine the number of spaces being used. For 1 through 3 players, we'll use 9 spaces. For a 4th player, we will use this 4th column here. Along the bottom, you'll notice there is a 1, a 2, and a 3, and these are used during the solo game to determine which column that the shadow player will be taking tiles from. And along the side here, 1, 2, and 3, this is a multiplier for each of the tiles. There will be a resource on there, what it costs to purchase the tiles. We have the progress tiles up above here divided by Age of History, and they're shuffled up and ready to go. The other game board over here is going to keep track of all of our victory points down at the bottom. In the center, there is going to be a space for event tiles. There will be an event once per Age of History that will determine famine and war that we'll have to deal with. And then up at the top is a space for books, which is another resource that our nation will be able to produce, sort of like our wisdom and intelligence. And along the side here, we also have the event tiles. They're divided up and shuffled up, and so there's going to be 1 per Age of History. Next, there are going to be these player nation boards, and there are 4 different ones. I'm using Egypt, but there is Greece, Persia, and Rome. And unlike the board game, these are all the same, and so all the buildings are going to be the same, and they are all going to represent the type of dice that we're going to use here. So we start off with the white dice, which are the basically a multi-purpose dice. They're about the least powerful. There are also other spaces on our player board. One space here is going to be where we will be able to gain advisors to help us out as we're developing our nation. And the other side is where we will be able to build wonders. Well, they'll be going under construction here. And then the space for putting all of our resources as they're being used will be in the center here. The game comes with a bunch of dice. We start off with these generic white ones and the different faces, like here's stone here for building, we have gold for purchasing things, we have food for feeding our people, we have swords for military conquest, and we have books that we'll be able to produce. And over the course of the game, we will be able to upgrade those dice depending upon what we want to do. If we want to have a stronger military presence, we may want to go after some red dice. If we want to make more food or produce more gold, we'll want these yellow dice. If we want to be able to have more building power and more control over the books that we're producing, we want to have these blue dice. And so we will be able to acquire them over the course of the game. Now, the game comes with these awesome player reference cards as well as the turn order, and this is going to give us the whole overview of what's going to happen over the course of the game, the starting books, and then the nice thing is, here's a dice overview that will show the different faces on each of the dice, and so you can see they progressively go in different directions once we get off of the white ones, and down at the bottom talks about 2 dice can be traded to produce resources. This is the turn order here, and they'll be randomly determined when we're playing with multiple players, but I'm going to be the solo player, and if I choose to pass, you just rotate the card here. So those are the components that come in the game. There are also, I guess, some additional chits that we'll be able to use that will gain us additional resources. And so when we start off the game, we will have our 5 white dice. 1 for each of these different buildings that we have, and then we have 2 starting resources here, 1 additional gold and 1 reroll. And so at the start of the Age of History, we're going to take 9 of these progress tiles, and we're going to reveal them, and we're going to place them randomly on the board here. And I will show you what the different types of tiles are. in a minute here once I have them all out. So on our nation board here, these progress tiles, the ones with blue borders are buildings, and we will use them to upgrade the buildings that we already have. We have brown ones, which are wonders, that will take us 2 turns to build, and I'll get into that shortly. And they will give us victory points and additional resources. We have these green colonies that we can conquer using our military to gain additional resources or victory points. And then we also have different advisors that we can recruit to get additional benefits. So we have them all out on the board. The next thing that we need to do is we need to determine what the event is going to be for this age of history. And so if we look at this up at the top, this will tell us for famine, if we have 1 leftover food, at least, we will gain 1 victory point. And if we have at least 1 sword, we will gain 1 victory point for our war. And so this will be placed here, and these will change over the course of the game. Now, each player is going to start off with 1 book, and in the solo game, what we need to do is, depending upon the age of history, we will roll 1 die per age of history that we're in. So we're in the first age of history, so I'm going to take 1 blue die, and I'm going to roll it to determine the number of books that the shadow player will gain. So I roll it, and it comes up with 2. So the shadow player will gain 2 books. So it'll be moved right there. Now, what's going to happen is we're ready to start the game. I will take my 5 dice, and I'm going to roll them to get my initial resources that I'm going to work with, and then I'll be able to choose an action. So at the start of the age, the first roll of the dice does not count for anything. So now I can take an action. So let's look what I have. 1 gold here plus another one. So I have 2 gold, I have 2 food, and I have 1 sword and 1 stone. And so I can choose to start doing some things right away. And I believe that the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to spend 1 of my gold in order to get this particular wonder, this terracotta army. So I can choose either to use my dice or I can use this chit down here. So I'm going to use that. And what I'm going to do is this terracotta army is going to go on this particular space here on my board. Now, this has to be completed in terms of building. And in order to build it on another turn, I will have to use stone to build it. And so when I complete it, then I will be able to get the benefits of 1 victory point and an additional military strength. But right now it goes right there, and I've spent my gold resource there. Now, every time that I take an action, what I need to do is I need to roll this D4 to make an action for the shadow player. And so I'll roll it and see what happens. So I roll it, and the roll number is a 2. And so what I do is starting from the left and counting over the columns, we'll just look on the bottom, there's a 2. The cheapest cost tile is going to be removed from the game. So this is only costing 1 thing. So this one, Israel, is now out of play for this particular game. So the shadow player took that tile. So now it's back to me. And I'm looking at what some of my options are and looking at my dice. I have a food that I'm going to save to use for the famine, and I'm also going to use this sword to save for the war and score some victory points there. Looking at my options, what I have 1 gold, 1 stone, and 1 more food. And I think what I'm going to do right now is choose to build a wonder. That's one of the other actions I can do. I can buy a tile, which I did. I can build a wonder or reroll. So to build, I'm going to spend my 1 stone, which is the requirement for this. And now this is built and is going to be placed underneath my player board. And at the end of the game, will be worth 1 victory point. But more importantly, I just gained an additional sword for use in military conquest. So that was my turn. I built my wonder. I'm going to roll for the shadow player. I rolled a 4. When I roll a 4, nothing happens. So that's good. Nothing else got taken out of play. Now that I have this sword here, I can use this at the end as well as my food, and I would like to be able to do something different. I'm going to choose to spend this reroll. And I can reroll as many dice as I want to, and I'm going to choose to roll, I want to hold on to this gold, but I'm going to re-roll these two, and hopefully I can get some more gold to work with. So I'll take these, roll them, and I have a book and a sword. And so back to the shadow player, their turn is I rolled another 4, so nothing happened again. On my turn, I don't really know if I want to try to build the pyramids. I would have to spend stone for it, and I'm not really feeling like I want to do that right now. I don't have any more options to re-roll, and so what's going to happen is I'm really left with not much to be able to do. I suppose I could spend this, but that's going to require me getting 2 stone, which is going to have to take 2 dice the next age, and I don't know if I want that. So I'm going to choose to pass. So in passing, that signals the end of this age of history, so there's a couple different things that we need to do. The first, we are going to produce and score books. So any leftover dice down at the bottom are going to be applied to the end of the round. So I have 1 book right here. So I will produce 1 book. And now for scoring in a solo game, if I had more books than the shadow player, I would score 2 victory points, but I did not. So I won't get those points. The next thing I have to do is deal with the famine, and I do have the 1 food to meet that condition. And so I will score 1 victory point for that. The next, in a multiplayer game, we would determine player order depending upon the number of swords that were left over, but in a solo game, I'm always the first player. And so we will move on to the next thing, is resolving the war, which I have 1, so I have at least 1 sword. I have 2. I'm going to score 1 victory point. And that is going to be the end of this age of history. And so what happens, all my dice will come back to me, all of these chits come back to me. Any of the tiles that were here, these progress tiles from the first age, are now removed, as well as the event tile from the first age. So we'll get rid of that. And we will show the second age now is going to be, if we have 2 food, 2 victory points, 3 swords be worth 2 victory points. And now we will put out 9 new tiles. This is going to come from the stack of age 2 tiles. And if we start looking at them, we'll start seeing that some of these things are more powerful. We'll be able to acquire more dice, better advisors, things like that. So we'll get these out here. And the next thing that I need to do is I need to roll for books for the shadow player. So now we're in the second age of history, so I take 2 dice and I roll them. And I rolled 2 stone and 1 book, so he's only going to gain 1 book. So we put that right there. Goes off to the side. And again, now I will roll my dice and see what happens. So now I have 2 gold, another book, a stone, and another sword. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to get some more dice. So I'm going to spend 1 of my gold to build a windmill. So now you see this has a gold die and a white one. And so what I'm going to do is I will choose any of these spaces and I will just place it on top of it. And what I need to do is whatever I'm covering up, I have to surrender that in order to get this. And now the cool thing is I can trade in something that I had rolled and didn't use yet, or something that I used already. And so it makes more sense to use something that I rolled already. So what happens is I'm going to trade in this particular white die, to gain a yellow and a white. So now I'll take a yellow and a white, and I get to roll them right away, and I'll be able to use these this particular turn. So I have a stone and a food. So now I will roll for the shadow player. I rolled a 1, and so the porcelain tower will be removed from the game. Back to me. I would like to... let's see, I have 2 stone already, and that would be nice to get some more gold. Looking at possibly building this wonder, this Hagia Sophia, hoping to get more stone. It's worth 3 victory points and gives me something that's going on all the time. The other options are spending 2 gold to get this Anna Komnene, which will give me more rerolls as an advisor, or this one is this the Moai statues will just give me more victory points. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 1 gold to get this Hagia Sophia, and this is going to go under construction right here. So I will need to have 3 stone in order to build it. I have 2, so I'm hoping that maybe I can re-roll something in the future. So let me roll for the shadow player. I rolled a 3. So 1, 2, 3. The cheapest one here is this Saharan trade. That is gone. So back to me. Really would like to get more stone, and I would like to be able to score victory points for these particular things here. I have 2 swords already, and I know this one's can produce more food. I'm gonna choose to use my chit to re-roll these 3 dice right here, and so I'm going to roll them, and I have nothing but gold right here. So that could be good or bad. So let me roll now for the shadow player, because I choose to re-roll on my action. I rolled a 3, 1, 2, 3, and Chichen Itza is gone. So on my turn, what I'm going to do now is I will choose to spend these 3 gold to build these long ships. And this is going to give me 2 dice. And so I'm going to cover this up here. I don't have a white die that's unused right now, and I would like to... That's a guaranteed sword right there. I'm not really looking to be able to do anything else. I'll trade in one of these to get a white and a red. So I'll roll these, and I have a bunch of swords. So now I have 2, 3, 4, 5 swords for this particular round. So let me roll for the shadow player. The shadow player rolls a 3, 1, 2, 3. It's empty. Nothing's going to happen. So it's back to me. I don't have the stone to do anything. I really feel like I didn't do much this particular age of history. It is what it is. So I guess I'm going to choose to pass. So the first thing that I'm going to do is produce and score books. I don't have any books, so I'm not going to score points there. The food, I don't have any food, so I'm not going to score any victory points. However, I do have swords left over, so I will score 2 victory points there. So that puts me up to 4 points. Here we are, this is the end of the second age of history. These are going to come off of the game board here, and this event is gone. We'll put a new one out. This one is if we have 4 food, 3 victory points, 3 swords, 3 victory points. And I will place out new tiles now from the third age of history. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So we have those out. We can see we've got wonders out here, some pretty impressive buildings that are going to give us a bunch more dice. All of our resources come back here. So now what I need to do is roll for books for the shadow player. So third age, rolling 3 dice. I'm going to roll. And 4 more books. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the shadow player is really pulling ahead of me on books, and so I have to make the option. Do I want to try to catch up with him with books? Probably not. That would be wasting a lot of things. So I have to look to try and make up points elsewhere. So what I need to do is roll all of my dice. And so let me see, I have 3 gold here, I have 2 food, 3 food, and another sword. So I have 2 swords actually to work with, and 3 gold. So on my turn, I think the first thing that I'm going to do is spend 1 of my gold to gain this sawmill. And so what I will do is I'll place it here. I will trade in this white one for 2 yellow ones, and I'll roll it. Hopefully I get some food. I have another food and 2 gold, which is good for me. And so I will roll now for the shadow player. Roll a 2, 1, 2. The Taj Mahal, which would have been nice to build, it's worth 5 victory points, is now out of play. Back to me. I really would like to get some stone, and I know that I can get stone if I get the blue dice. I'm going to choose to spend 2 gold to build this observatory now. So I'll do that, trade in 1 of these white ones to get 2 blue, and be able to roll these dice to use them. And I have a total of 5 books that I just rolled. Roll for the shadow player. A 2, 1, 2. The Aztec Empire is gone. Okay, next thing that I need to do is I would really like to be able to get some victory points. I would like to have some stone. I'm going to choose to re-roll dice, and I'm going to boy oh boy oh boy, I'm gonna re-roll these because I know I can get food off of here, and I would like to get some swords off of here to get military conquest too. So re-roll these dice, and going to get again, I have 4 books, a stone, and 2 food here. So this is not being very good for me at all. I'm not being able to build these wonders here. However, I guess I can catch up on the books. We roll for the shadow player here. Rolled a 4, nothing's going to happen. I do have food to score points, and I don't have enough swords. So I guess what I'm going to end up doing is I will spend 2 swords. Actually, I just re-rolled. No. I did re-roll before. I'm going to spend these 2 swords to conquer Brazil. That will at least give me a victory point, and it will give me an additional stone for the future. Let me roll for the shadow player. Roll the 1, the Kremlin is gone. So I have 2 stone and no ability to re-roll. I have 1 gold that I really can't use, and so I'm going to choose to pass. And so that, again, what's going to happen now is we're going to produce and score books. I have 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 books. For me, I don't have more than the shadow player, so I won't score points. I do have enough food, though. I have 2, 3, 4, 5 food. I only needed 4. It's going to score me 3 points, so 1, 2, 3 points there. And I don't have any swords left over for military conquest. And so that is going to trigger the end of this particular age of history. And so what happens is all of these are going to be removed, and the event is going away. The 4th event is going to come out now. If we have 4 food, it's worth 4 victory points. 5 swords is going to be worth 4 victory points. And all of my dice will come back now. Which, the nice thing, at least this roll, I'll be rolling 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 dice this particular turn, so that's good for me. And if you ever needed to be reminded of which dice you have, you just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those should match what you have in front of you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So let's roll and see what we have here. I'm still stuck with that Hagia Sophia, but I could possibly change it, and I'll tell you how that works here if I roll good. So I have, let's see, 5 swords, 4 food, and I have some stone and 2 books. Let's see, and I have gold. So, let's see if we can make the most of what we can do on this turn. On my initial roll, I have enough food to score 4 victory points, and I have enough swords to score 4 victory points. That's going to give me 8 right there. Am I going to be able to get something else that's going to give me 8 victory points? It's highly unlikely. The Suez Canal I would need is worth 8 victory points, but I have to use 6 stone. I can do other things with that amount of resources. The one thing that I can choose to do, though, is if I look at this, Hagia Sophia is only worth 3 victory points, and it produces it's going to produce me 1 gold if I build it with 3. I don't know if I really need the extra gold, potentially. But I could kick it out and build MIT and get 4 victory points. But I won't get the extra gold. But I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to... No. I'm going to go ahead and complete this Hagia Sophia. I'll spend my 3 stone here. So I have this... 1 from Brazil, and these 2 stone, that's 3. So I'm finally going to get this built. If I chose to, I could have purchased another one and just bumped it out, would have been discarded. But I'm going to build this here. If I had chosen to, I could have put MIT in its place or replaced it with another wonder. And so that's going to give me another gold, which is going to be something that I can use to at least get some victory points. So let me roll for the shadow player now. It rolls a 2, 1, 2. MIT is gone now. So it's back to me. And you know what? One thing real quick that I forgot to do was roll for books for the shadow player. So let me take care of that now. 4 dice. And it's going to give him only 3 books. So 1, 2, 3. Forgot to do that. So sorry about that. Let's see. So in order for me to try to get 2 victory points, I would have to gain 1, 2, 3, at least 6 books, which is a lot. It's not worth it for me to do that. So I'm going to don't really need to use these books at all. I would rather have them good for something else. So I'm going to choose to re-roll these dice, and I'm going to see what happens. I have a book and I have a stone. So I re-rolled back to the shadow player, roll their dice. Here, roll a 1. The railroad is gone. I would have liked to have had that to get some points. So looking at what I have left, I can spend 2 gold. And I can get Marie Antoinette, which would be good. That would give me 2 victory points. I can spend that. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Spend 2 gold to get Marie Antoinette. And back to the shadow player. I rolled a 4, nothing happens. I have a sword, a book, and a stone. And what I can choose to do, unfortunately when it talks about trading dice, if I could take 2 unused ones and I can produce either a gold, a stone, or a food. I cannot produce like a sword, which would have been really, really nice, because I could have, or a book. Actually, no, I'm not a book. I could have chosen to do that to. If I could have done that to a sword, I could have gotten Algeria, but I can't. These are not going to do me really anything. I have enough food there. Can't re-roll. So I'm just going to choose to pass here, and that's going to be the end of this particular round. And so what's going to happen is we take all of these out here. These are now out of the game. and we're going to produce and score books. I have 1. I won't score any points there. Next, I deal with the famine. I have the 4 food that's going to give me 4 victory points. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And for the military, I do have the 5, so I'm going to score 4 victory points here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There. Now that we've done that, I'm going to count up then any remaining victory points that I have on all of my buildings and advisors, and then I'll have my final score. So if I look at Marie Antoinette's going to give me 2, so 1, 2 there, and 1 from the Terracotta Army, and 1 from Brazil, and finally 3 for Hagia Sophia. So 1, 2, 3. So that's going to give me 22 points for my score. And if we look at the chart here, let's see, we have 22. Well, we did better than Dan Quayle, we did better than Cleopatra, we did better than Charles V, and we just fell short of Victoria. So not too bad for a gameplay. I didn't get a chance to do a lot of things that I wanted to, but anyway, so that is Nations the Dice Game.